Hey everybody, happy Friday. In just a second here, we're going to start our conclusion of Stave 2. Real quick, remember today we really talked a lot about theme and especially how it forms over time as you collect the clues. In this case, the theme we're looking at, ironically, I just said it, is time. But almost anything can have a theme. I was just thinking about it right before I started this video about with our Christmas tree. Some people's Christmas trees will have like a Charlie Brown theme or a Disney theme, or ours it has a family theme. We have, an ornament here that my daughter made in Girl Scouts, and we have one here that commemorates our family from 2012. My goodness. One for our cat, one my son made. So the theme of our tree is family, and you can see it by gathering the evidence looking at the tree. So same thing here. We're going to continue reading in Christmas Carol, Stave 2, and we're going to pay attention to theme, especially the theme of time. Doesn't mean other themes aren't going to arise. I have some ideas myself of what some of these are. Let me get us to the right page here. So we're on page 31, right after the Spirit took Scrooge to the place where he said he had been an apprentice, so kind of like his first job. We saw Fezziwig in there, his old boss, who just had checked the clock and told everyone, hey, stop working. And he called for Scrooge and some kid named Dick Wilkins. And so we pick it up, page 31, and Scrooge says, Dick Wilkins, to be sure, said Scrooge to the ghost. Bless me, yes, there he is. He was very much attached to me, was Dick. Poor Dick. Dear, dear. Yo-ho, my boys, said Fezziwig. No more work tonight. Christmas Eve. It's quite a contrast to Scrooge. Remember his feelings about Christmas and with his employee. Anyway. Ebenezer, let's have the shutters up, cried old Fezziwig with a sharp clap of his hands, before a man can say Jack Robinson. You wouldn't believe how those two fellows went at it. They charged into the street with the shutters. 1, 2, 3, had 'em up in their places. 4, 5, 6, bared 'em and pinned 'em. 7, 8, 9, and came back before you could have got to 12, panting like racehorses. Hilly-ho, cried old Fezziwig, skipping down from the high desk with wonderful agility. Clear away, my lads, and let's have lots of room here. Clear away. There was nothing they wouldn't have cleared away or couldn't have cleared away with old Fezziwig looking on. It was done in a minute. Each movable was packed off as if it were dismissed from public life forevermore. The floor was swept and watered, the lamps were trimmed, fuel was heaped up in the fire, and the warehouse was as snug and warm and dry and bright a ballroom as you would ever desire to see on a winter's night. So think about Scrooge's shop on Christmas Eve was dark, dingy, he's kicking people out of there, it's crowded, it's cold. Fezziwig, it's warm, it's happy, building a fire, move this furniture out of the way, let's have a party, it's Christmas Eve, stop working. Very different ideas about time between Fezziwig and Scrooge. In came a fiddler with a music book and went up to the lofty desk and made an orchestra of it and tuned like 50 stomach aches. In came Mrs. Fezziwig, one vast, substantial smile. In came the 3 Miss Fezziwigs, beaming and lovable. In came the 6 young followers whose hearts they broke. In came all the young men and women employed in the business. In came the housemaid with her cousin, the baker. In came the cook with her brother's particular friend, the milkman. In came the boy from over the way who was suspected of not having board enough from his master, trying to hide himself behind the girl from next door, but one who was proved to have had her ears pulled by her mistress. In they all came one after another, some shyly, some boldly, some gracefully, some awkwardly, some pushing, some pulling. In they all came anyhow and everyhow. Away they all went, 20 couple at once, hands half round and back again the other way, down the middle and up again, round and round in various stages of affectionate grouping. Old top couple always turning up in the wrong place, new top couple starting off again. As soon as they got there, all top couples at last, and not a bottom one to help them. When the result was brought about, old Fezziwig, clapping his hands to stop the dance, cried out, "Well done!" and the fiddler plunged his hot face into a pot of porter, especially provided for that purpose. But scorning rest upon his reappearance, he instantly began again, though there were no dancers yet, as if the other fiddler had been carried home, exhausted, on a shutter, and he were a brand new man, resolved to beat him out of sight or perish. So this is a party. They are dancing. There's a fiddler. The couples they're doing formal dances. There were more dances, and there were forfeits, and more dances, and there was cake, and there was negus, and there was a great piece of cold roast, and there was a great piece of cold boiled, and there were mince pies and plenty of beer. But the great effect of the evening came after the roast and boiled, when the fiddler, an artful dog mind, the sort of man who knew his business better than you or I could have told him, struck up Sir Roger de Coverley. Then old Fezziwig stood out to dance with Mrs. Fezziwig. Top couple, too, with a good stiff piece of work cut out for them, 3 or 4 and 20 pair of partners, people who were not to be trifled with, people who would dance and had no notion of walking. So Scrooge is kind of making fun of his nephew for even choosing to get married. But here's Scrooge's old boss, who's like the greatest. They're this part of this loving couple who's like dancing and partying on Christmas. I mean, it's quite a difference there. When the clock struck 11, the domestic ball broke up. Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig took their stations, one on either side of the door, and shaking hands with every person individually as he or she went out, wished him or her a Merry Christmas. When everybody had retired, but the 2 prentices, that's Scrooge and Dick, they did the same to them, and thus the cheerful voices died away, and the lads were left to their beds, which were under a counter in the back shop. During the whole of this time, Scrooge had acted like a man out of his wits. His heart and soul were in the scene, and with his former self. He corroborated everything, remembered everything, enjoyed everything, and underwent the strangest agitation. It was not until now, when the bright faces of his former self and Dick were turned from them, that he remembered the ghost, and became conscious that it was looking full upon him, while the light upon its head burnt very clear. "A small matter," said the ghost, "to make these silly folks so full of gratitude." "Small?" echoed Scrooge. The spirit signed to him to listen to the 2 apprentices who were pouring out their hearts in praise of Fezziwig, and when he had done so, say, "Why, is it not? He has spent but a few pounds of your mortal money, 3 or 4 perhaps. Is that so much that he deserves all this praise?" "It isn't that," said Scrooge, heated by the remark, and speaking unconsciously like his former, not his latter self. "It isn't that, spirit. He has the power to render us happy or unhappy, to make our service light or burdensome, a pleasure or a toil. Say that his power lies in his words and looks, in things so slight and insignificant that it's possible to add and count 'em up. And then, the happiness he gives is quite as great as if it cost a fortune." So all of a sudden we have Scrooge, who's running people out of his shop, telling the ghost, "Hey, listen, Fezziwig, he made the job easier, he made it fun, he knew how to make us happy, and he cared about our happiness." He felt the spirit's glance and stopped. "What's the matter?" asked the ghost. "Nothing particular," said Scrooge. "Something, I think," the ghost insisted. "No," said Scrooge, "no. I should like to be able to say a word or 2 to my clerk just now, that's all." His former self turned down the lamp as he gave utterance to the wish, and Scrooge and the ghost again stood side by side in the open air. "My time grows short," observed the spirit. "Quick." That's where we're going to stop, there at the bottom of page 33. We'll pick up 34 in the next video. It's an appropriate place to stop. The spirit's time has grown short, and he's telling Scrooge we have to hurry. Time is important, but time's also limited, so we have to hurry. Speaking of time, I'll see you here very shortly.